Welcome to the Reddit Family to Us YouTube channel, a place where genuine and inspiring family stories are shared. Here, you'll enjoy unique videos about family life, humorous moments, and meaningful lessons. Let's explore together the stories where love and connection shine through. Join us in creating beautiful memories. Please comment and let us know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe now so you won't miss the special video launching tomorrow. My sister said I ruined her wedding, but the truth destroyed her relationship. Growing up, I always felt like an outsider in my own family. My name is Madison, and I'm 21 years old now, but for as long as I can remember, I've never really fit in. My parents, David, 54M, and Laura, 52F, and my older sister, Olivia, 26F, seemed to exist in their own world, one where I was just a background character. They weren't outright cruel, but they never made an effort to truly know me. I was always just there. It became obvious when I was a kid. They bonded over shared interests, sports, family traditions, social events, things I never really connected with. Anytime I tried to share something about myself, like my love for reading, art, or travel, they would listen for a second, nod, and then quickly steer the conversation back to what mattered to them. It was like I spoke a different language. Over time, I just stopped trying. By the time I got to high school, I had already accepted that I was the odd one out. Olivia, on the other hand, was everything they could have wanted in a daughter. She was outgoing, driven, and always followed the path my parents envisioned. She went to the best schools, got the best grades, and had a perfectly curated social life. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. And me? I was just different. When I left for college, I slowly started distancing myself. It wasn't a conscious decision at first, but every time I went home, I felt like I was walking into someone else's house. The conversations were forced, the interactions shallow. It didn't feel like home. So instead of going back for the holidays, I started visiting my grandparents or traveling when I could. My absence didn't seem to bother my family much, and honestly, that hurt more than anything. They never asked why I wasn't coming home, never checked in to see if I was okay. It was as if they were perfectly fine without me. That realization hit hard. I kept hoping, deep down, that they would notice my absence, that they would care enough to reach out. But they never did. Over time, I accepted it. I stopped chasing a relationship that had never really existed. I focused on building my own life, away from the people who never truly made space for me and theirs. I thought I had finally found peace with it. But then, everything changed. And it all started with a single dinner conversation. For the longest time, I thought my family's indifference was just the way things were. It hurt, but I had accepted it. That was until Olivia's fiancé, Ryan, 27M, entered the picture and threw everything into chaos. It all started during Christmas dinner last year. I hadn't planned to go, but my grandparents convinced me, saying it would be nice for the family to be together. So, I went, already bracing myself for another evening of feeling like a stranger in my own home. But what I didn't expect was Ryan. From the moment I met him, he was different. Unlike my parents and Olivia, he actually talked to me, not out of obligation, but because he seemed genuinely interested. He asked me about school, about traveling, about things I actually cared about. We had normal, light-hearted conversations, something that never happened with my family. It felt good to finally be acknowledged, to feel like I was actually part of the room instead of a ghost hovering around the edges. But Olivia? She hated it. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then I noticed the way she kept staring at me during dinner, her eyes narrowing every time Ryan and I exchanged words. The tension was impossible to ignore. She barely spoke to me the rest of the night, which wasn't unusual. But this time, it felt different. Like there was something brewing beneath the surface. I didn't think much of it, until later that night when Olivia pulled me aside, her voice cold and sharp. "I know what you're doing," she hissed, her eyes flashing with something I couldn't quite place. Confused, I frowned. "What?" "You're trying to steal my fiancé." I almost laughed out loud. Steal her fiancé? Where was this even coming from? I barely spoke to her outside of family gatherings, and now she thought I was plotting to take her future husband? "Olivia, that's ridiculous," I said, shaking my head. "We were just having a normal conversation." But she didn't let it go. She accused me of being too friendly with Ryan, of seeking attention, of always being jealous of her. I stood there in shock as she ranted, spewing years of built-up resentment, as if she had been waiting for this moment. She wasn't just insecure, she was furious. And as I looked into her eyes, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't over. It was just the beginning. After Olivia's insane accusation at Christmas, I figured she'd get over it. Maybe she'd realize how ridiculous it was and move on. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Over the next few months, things between us went from bad to worse. She stopped acknowledging me completely. At family gatherings, she would either ignore me outright or shoot me looks filled with pure hatred. If I so much as greeted Ryan in passing, she would immediately cling to him, glaring at me as if I were some kind of threat. At first, I didn't care. It wasn't like Olivia and I had ever been close, and I was used to being the outsider. But then I started noticing something weird. My parents were acting strange too. It was subtle at first. My mom would watch me more closely whenever Olivia and Ryan were around. My dad, who normally barely spoke to me, suddenly started talking about loyalty and how family should respect boundaries. It was like they were all dancing around something, waiting for me to mess up. Then, I got a call from my grandparents. "You didn't tell me Olivia was getting married," I blurted out, completely caught off guard. There was a pause. "She didn't invite you?" "No, she didn't." That was when it clicked. Olivia wasn't just holding a grudge, she was actually cutting me out of her life completely. Still, I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to beg for an invite to a wedding I had no interest in attending. If she didn't want me there, fine. I had better things to do. But then, out of nowhere, Olivia called me herself. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. Her voice was cold, calculated. "I'm not inviting you to the wedding," she said, as if she were doing me a favor. I scoffed. "Yeah, I figured." Then she hit me with the real reason. "Jonathan has feelings for you. I can't have you there, it would make things too complicated." I burst out laughing. It was so insane, so completely delusional, that I couldn't even be mad. "You're serious?" I asked. She didn't laugh. "I don't want you ruining this for me," she snapped. "Just stay out of my life." For the first time in my life, I was done. Done trying. Done explaining. Done caring. So I simply said, "Have a great wedding, Olivia." And then I hung up. I thought that was the end of it. Olivia had made it clear she wanted me out of her life, and I was more than happy to stay out of it. But life had other plans. It was a Thursday night, just a couple of days before the wedding, and I was curled up on my couch, working on an assignment when my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At first, I ignored it. But when I saw that I had 7 missed calls from my dad, I knew something was seriously wrong. He never called more than once. When I finally picked up, his voice was frantic. "Michelle, you need to come to the venue. Now." I blinked in confusion. "What? Why?" "It's about Olivia and Jonathan," he said, his voice shaking. "You need to get here. Right now." Before I could even process that, my phone beeped with another incoming call, my mom. I hesitated but answered. She was crying. "Your sister needs you," she sobbed. "Please, Michelle. She's devastated." My heart dropped. What the hell had happened? Then, as if things couldn't get weirder, Olivia called me herself. I let it ring. Then ring again. But she didn't stop. So, finally, I picked up. "Michelle," she choked out, sounding like a completely different person. "You have to fix this." I frowned. "Fix what?" Then she dropped the bombshell. "Jonathan won't marry me unless you're there." I actually laughed out loud. "What?" "He says he can't marry someone who would treat their own sister this way," Olivia cried. "He says my behavior towards you has made him question everything about me and our family." I was stunned. Not because I cared about their wedding, but because, for the first time in my life, someone else saw it. Someone finally noticed how my family had treated me, and they called it out. But Olivia wasn't done. "We can fix this, Michelle," she pleaded. "Just come and tell Jonathan that you never wanted to come. That it was your choice to stay away. Please." I went silent. After months of accusing me of stealing her fiancé, of cutting me out, of treating me like the villain in her twisted little drama, now she wanted my help? I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "I won't lie for you, Olivia." "You have to," she shrieked. "He believes you. He won't listen to me." I closed my eyes, feeling a strange sense of peace wash over me. "Maybe," I said, "he believes me because I've never given him a reason not to." And then, without another word, I hung up. I turned off my phone and set it aside. For the first time in my life, I felt free. No more begging for their approval. No more trying to fit into a family that never wanted me. Olivia had spent months making me out to be the villain, and now she was watching her own world crumble because of it. And I wasn't going to save her. The next morning, my grandparents called. They were the only family members I still spoke to, so I picked up. "Michelle," my grandmother sighed, "Jonathan called off the wedding." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "He's completely disappeared," she continued. "His family is furious. They left town early this morning. Olivia's devastated. Your parents are trying to fix it, but it's bad." I didn't say anything. "You did the right thing," my grandfather added quietly. "We saw how they treated you. We should have said something sooner." I swallowed hard. That meant more than they knew. But the storm wasn't over. That afternoon, I checked my phone to find dozens of missed calls, voicemails, and texts from relatives, family friends, even people I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them saying the same thing. "Fix this. Apologize. Make things right." It was almost funny. For years, These people didn't care about me. But the second their precious Olivia lost everything, suddenly, I mattered. My parents? They didn't call. But they didn't have to. Because later that night, I got a text from Olivia. I expected another angry rant, more insults, more guilt-tripping. But all it said was, "I hope you're happy." I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. For the first time in my life? Yeah, I think I am. Then, I blocked her number. And just like that, I was done. We want to hear from you. What would you have done in Michelle's situation? Do you think she made the right decision? Or should she have tried to mend things with her family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a similar situation? Let's talk about it.